I'm just casually drinking out of my mug today. My neighbor gave me this mug. Today we're going to talk about sex. Now, I'm not pretending to be a psychic, but I always say that I think I can predict people that have a good sex life and people that don't by how they act in everyday life. Not like I'm going around analyzing people, but I do think it's true. So commonly you got two different people that have two different sex drives. One person would be fine having sex once a month. One person would be fine having sex twice a day. One person's love language is physical touch, and they get crabby and grumpy if they're not getting it. And one person's love language is spend some time with me, do me a favor, or give me a compliment, but I don't need sex. One person might be deeply hurt, like I describe it sometimes like the baby is crying and no one's picking them up. Like it's not just like, oh, I want to have sex. It's more like I want to have intimacy. It's not just I want to have that passion, but I want to feel seen and connected with you. It's a common scenario. So with so much discrepancy in the way people are wired or what people desire, and with it being such a vulnerable topic, it's a hard thing to navigate sometimes. So people want to know if one person has a lower libido and one person has a higher libido, or one person desires more physical intimacy and one person doesn't really care, or worse, feels stressed by it. What do you do? Is this person just supposed to have sex sometimes even when they don't automatically feel like it? Yes, sometimes. Is this person just supposed to put up with it and tolerate the distress of feeling abandoned and neglected and alone? Yes, sometimes. What is a relationship if not making a commitment to do something that you wouldn't normally do because you love the other person, to give of yourself sometimes, and also to expect that the other person gives of themselves sometimes, does some things that they wouldn't normally do out of love. Sex is a little tricky though, because it's like, it's your body. You're not just doing somebody a favor or calling your spouse if you're going to be late that evening. So the reason I so arrogantly say that I think I can predict how people's sex lives are based on how they are in everyday life is because the same vibe and skills and ways of being with one another that are super healthy for everyday life are the same skills and ways of being with each other that make for a good sex life and that make for navigating or negotiating discrepant libidos a little more natural. So there's two things that I wanted to mention. One is foundationally, what does a really healthy relationship look like in order for it to be a healthy thing for the person with a low libido to sometimes have sex anyway, and the person with the higher libido to sometimes tolerate the distress. In a healthy relationship, you've got two people that respect each other enough to lean into the other person's perspective, to honor the other person's need without getting defensive. Also, respect each other enough to make I statements or ask for what they need instead of criticize. Instead of an atmosphere of defensiveness or criticism, there's an atmosphere of open communication, and within that communication, there's a real effort to understand the other person, and that comes from a real caring about the other person. With a good sex life, just like a good relationship, it's not a person relating to an object. That object is supposed to meet my needs, and that object needs to see me as adequate, and that object needs to consider me all the time. It's a person relating to a person. It's a dance. So in a healthy relationship, there's those vulnerable I statements. I'm feeling alone. And there's vulnerable direct requests. What I need from you to feel less alone is come and sit next to me. And that stuff happens in everyday life. And instead of defensiveness, like, what do you mean you feel alone? We just spent all Saturday together. There's an openness and a curiosity. Maybe they don't say it, but the vibe is, tell me more about that. In a healthy dynamic, it's two humans relating to each other, being keyed in to the other person and deeply caring about what the other person is experiencing. Guess what? Same thing for sex. The other thing about a healthy relationship in everyday life is it's not always very serious. Because you have a foundation of respecting one another and really being partners and taking that for granted and giving each other benefit of the doubt and taking for granted that each other is good. If you have that foundation, it's going to lend itself to a lot of levity and a lot of casual playfulness. Guess what? That's going to happen in the bedroom too. Everything won't be so tight. So I wanted to say that because it's not enough to say, okay, sometimes I'm going to have sex when I don't want to, or okay, I guess I'm going to suck it up and not have sex. No. Those people that do that without a healthy foundation in their relationship, are going to be miserable and feel used or dismissed and discarded. So I'm saying only if you have a healthy relationship, do that thing. Yeah, sometimes. It's not enough to end the conversation there though. This is super duper important. If you have a healthy relationship and you're used to more open and vulnerable communication, you're gonna probably already know this, but you might be thinking about it in different words. There's two different types of desire when it comes to sex. There's people that have what's called spontaneous desire, where nothing needs to cue them for them to want to be having sex. It's spontaneous. Of course I want to throw down. I don't need any convincing. Let's go. Spontaneous. And then responsive desire. That means that the person is not walking around fully connected to their body. They're more thinking a lot. So they need something external to cue them or jar them so that they can respond to feel more in their body. That's common for men or women. It's really common for people with anxiety and ADHD. They have a libido. They have desire. So don't think they don't want sex. Sometimes they're very sensitive to not being desired. They really need sex to make them feel connected to their partner, but they won't spontaneously want it. They need cueing from the environment, from their partner, to get their head in the game. And if you're the spontaneous partner, and if you already have pretty good communication, you probably already know some of the things that you can do to get your responsive partner to respond. Some of it might be emotional. I think it's mostly physical for most people. It's cueing the body to be in the moment and to experience a sensation that's pleasurable in order to stay in the moment. Doesn't have to be foreplay. It could be non-sexual. It could be massage. It could be kiss the back of the neck. It could be rub the shoulders. It could be walk by me in some sexy lingerie. It could be any of that, whatever. But don't think that responsive person has no libido. So a lot of news articles were going around about how research found if men do more housework, they're going to have more sex. I think that was like a bastardized interpretation of it. There are things that get in the way of that responsive partner feeling embodied and having their body respond and perk up to a pleasurable sensation. And one of those things is stress. And one of those things is feeling alone or not considered or overwhelmed. So is it that it's really sexy to see the partner doing those things? No. But if the partner doesn't do those things, it's a big barrier to people with responsive desire to feel desire. So to summarize, if you think you need some help in the bedroom, you probably need some help with everyday interacting with each other. Couples therapy might be right for you. And if you have that healthy relationship and you're the person with a responsive or less of an automatic desire for sex, and occasionally you say, okay, I'm going to commit to being open to this experience and go with it, you know what happens if the relationship is healthy. It ends up being enjoyable because you're keyed into each other. And what happens for that partner that tolerates their distress is their partner notices that and cares deeply about them and makes an effort to get their head in the game. If you think you have a strong, healthy, foundational relationship, but it's just not translating to equal libido, consider that you or your partner might have a more responsive desire. And then take that already existing ability to communicate about vulnerable things and communicate about that. What makes your switch flipped on? Let's talk about it. And if you do have a healthy relationship, that's going to be a fun conversation. So, okay, enjoy, guys.